gang, I did tell you that there would be a follow up to what apparently is now the Republicans' version of force the vote. But before we go any further, some people have been sharing some pretty funny things. This one right here of Dan Crenshaw. Now, obviously, people are still thinking about Liz Cheney and the fact that we pretty much all called that Adam Kinzinger would be going to CNN at some point in time. Now, guys, this right here is what we're going to be discussing. We're going to, for the most part, be focusing in on what was agreed to. Also, we're going to be focusing in on the media reaction and why this right here is not surprising to some of us. And we're also going to go back to late 2020, early 2021, when the whole force the vote concept was not conceived. Of course, this right here was a result of the squad, and why it is that Republicans, of course, may have just pulled off the same exact maneuver. But before we go any further, let me kind of get you guys caught up to speed so that way you guys can kind of see the chaos that has been going on this entire week on the floor of the United States House of Representatives.
Donald John Trump.
Trump.
Drain the swamp. You cannot put the biggest alligator in charge of the exercise. I'm a Florida man and I know of what I speak. We offered Kevin McCarthy terms last evening.
Favorite president, call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
You pushed us into this corner, so now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but McCarthy. That's why we're saying it, because we cannot let the terrorists win.
Speaker's office, an actual person that ought to be in the Speaker's office, not the squatter who is currently there. And if the architect of the Capitol is listening, I sent a letter, and I would like to know what the basis is to allow somebody to occupy the Speaker's office who comes in second place 10 straight times. Is there like some basis in law or rule or precedent for that?
You worried about retribution after the fact? There was threats that folks that weren't going to vote for McCarthy would be kicked off committees. Now you've put yourself in a pretty public position opposing the person that could be the speaker. Are you worried about retribution?
Man, I'm 6'2", 275. I'm not worried about that.
20, that the House is shut down. We're not working on the issues that we campaigned on, like lowering inflation, securing the border, supporting our law enforcement, standing up to China. None of this is happening. All our committees are now shut down, and it's on these 20 people. They're embarrassing the House. They're embarrassing the Republicans. They're embarrassing our country. So I think over time, with focus, we'll get some of these over. But we also have to be willing to consider working with the Democrats at some point to get some work on some concessions to get some support there if these 20 refuse to budge. But
people nominating Donald Trump, people nominating Byron Donalds, also something else too. A lot of people have went ahead and caved and decided to vote for Kevin McCarthy. The real reason why they are doing this is because they have pretty much gotten what the hell they wanted. Junior Congresswoman Anna Paulina, she decided to post exactly what it is that has been agreed to. Basically things like ensuring a balanced budget, stuff like that right there. Now, guys, I got into an argument earlier on Twitter with an individual who was bringing up the force the vote thing and why it is this is not the same thing and how it was that the squad, for the most part, got what the hell they wanted. No, they did not. They wanted a higher minimum wage. They didn't get that. What else did they want? Medicare for all. They didn't get that. There were a lot of things that, quite frankly, they did not get. And if they want to say something like, well, we got gay marriage done, my response to that is, so you mean to tell me something that had already been ruled upon during the Obama administration? You guys got that? No. These people right here did not get a damn thing that they wanted. And, of course, the progressives were completely hoodwinked by Pelosi and the rest of the Democratic Party. Pelosi is gone, by the way, but I'm pretty sure she'll resurface at some point in time to provide us an update on her status as an alcoholic. Now, that right there being said, let's go ahead and talk about this. So, apparently this right here was, in fact, done to get certain things met, certain demands met. And let's be honest. We're spending money like crazy. We're sending money to Ukraine. Kevin McCarthy is a swamp rat. And so, of course, is obviously Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, I think, is the easiest target. But we call him a turtle for a reason. You see, Mitch McConnell, and I know somebody's going to misinterpret what I have to say here, but Mitch McConnell does have his uses normally when a Republican is in charge. We saw that with Donald Trump. We saw him get Amy Coney Barrett nominated. We saw him get some of the portions of Trump's agenda through. But of course, for the most part, he's still obstructed. And he's still very, very much one of the boys' club, a lot like Lindsey Graham. These guys are still very, very much the swamp. However, in the case of the Republicans, in the case of Kevin McCarthy, he is one that controls the purse. He's the one that controls the money that goes to the United States Senate to actually be approved upon. So that way we can know exactly where that money is going. And of course, when you're wearing Ukraine lapels, yeah, it seems to me like we, for the most part, already know that you are very, very much, in fact, on the side of the swamp. And brings me to the media reaction. Now, guys, the New York Post posted this here. And what the New York Post and a lot of conservatives, especially establishment Republican outlets, don't seem to realize is that the people who are watching their networks, the people who are watching their shows, they're seeing this and they're sick and tired of all the corruption and they're sick and tired of all the BS. I have to go ahead and harken back to Sean Hannity and Lauren Boebert. And this right here to me, I really and truly am not that surprised that Hannity did this because Hannity has done this type of stuff before. But then again, though, doing it to another conservative, especially a conservative who's trying to get things done, trying to get the Republican Congress, the swamp, to acquiesce to certain demands that, quite frankly, should have been met a long time ago, was a little bit shocking.
Is Congresswoman Boebert. Now, Congresswoman, let me, you tweet, Town Hall quoted you today saying the president, you said complimentary things about President Trump, needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes. It's time to withdraw. Let me turn the tables, Congresswoman. Kevin McCarthy has 203 votes. Your side has 20. So if I'm going to use your words and your methodology and your math, isn't it time for you to pack it in and your side to pack it in, considering he has over 200 and you have 20?
Sean, I understand the frustration. I promise you, but
I'm not frustrated.
He does
you didn't
not
answer
have the
my
votes,
question.
and we are hearing. from many people who are still voting with Kevin McCarthy, who are very supportive of what we're doing, and they're cheering us on. So there are more for us than are against us, and they are waiting for Kevin to cave.
Okay.
The American people are certainly frustrated by.
I'm frustrated by you not answering a direct question. You said to President Trump, you said earlier today that President Trump needs to tell Kevin McCarthy, you don't have the votes.
We need to come up with a consensus candidate to elect a Speaker of the House.
You don't have the votes, and it's time to withdraw. He has 203. Your side has 20. Why is it time for him to withdraw and not you when he has so many more votes?
Well, Sean, he needs 218, and he does not have 218. We've been trying to work this out in private, as you said, for months. But Kevin McCarthy didn't even want to listen to us until his disappointing midterms. We all want a unified party. But this isn't chaos. It's a functioning constitutional republic. When everything is said and done,
I like the
House Republicans will be stronger and better prepared to lead than we ever have before. I believe that this is what our founding fathers intended, and this is showing that our votes are working. Our votes aren't just a cast.
Congresswoman, I'd ask you not to filibuster. Yesterday you voted, and Jim Jordan was your choice.
As you guys can see, Sean Hannity is obviously gone. A lot of other things, of course, have come out about him, but we're going to probably save that for another day. Fox News as a whole, they are officially gone, in my opinion. You're probably never going to get them back. I think that their turn began, in a lot of ways, their turn kind of began before 2016, but it became abundantly clear not long afterwards. Now, here is the thing that you have to kind of understand about Fox News. Fox News, for the most part, kind of sort of helped to kill the Tea Party. That right there is really and truly what the America First movement is it's just the Tea Party. The whole MAGA movement is something that Trump, quite frankly, inherited. I've said it all the time. This is what I mean when I say that Trump simply was the Tea Party revenge. That right there is what the hell it was. And Fox News, as well as the establishment GOP, went out of their way to kill the Tea Party movement, which, by the way, was extremely necessary in getting the country back on track to where it actually needed to be at that time. Give it to Brian Kilmeade, somebody who I've been losing respect for every day for a long time, to call us all a bunch of insurrection.
To get around this and try to come together today at noon.
Right, but here's the thing. If you pick Jim, just how insincere the insurrectionists are, I probably shouldn't use that word, the people that don't want to vote for Kevin McCarthy. They would disagree with that, right?
Of course, leave it to Ben Shapiro, who I brought up earlier today, to get into a Twitter war with somebody who was formerly a part of the Trump staff and basically try to say that what they were doing was actually stupid, talking about Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert. And of course, man, he really kind of got put in this place by this girl, Emerald Robinson. But there's also one more thing that needs to be stated. A lot of people are going out of their way to say that Chip Roy is a rock star. No, he's not. Chip Roy, like some of the other ones out there, loves to grandstand. He loves to go out there and be very, very grandiose, but yet he was one of the very first of the 20 to capitulate. In the case of Paul Gosar, he's always been pretty well consistent. Chip Roy, on the other hand, normally never has been. And for the most part, he's basically turned into a dissent at this point in time. So, nice try, Chip. You're not going to convince us of anything other than the fact that you're nothing more than a grandstanding. Well, I'm not going to say the rest of it, or else YouTube will ban the channel. At the end of the day, this venture, in my opinion, for the most part, worked. It also got a lot of coverage. Now, guys, this right here is going to be I guess you could say, the second half of the video. This is going to be a relatively long section. Now, guys, I want you to bear with me. I normally don't use left-wing commentators to kind of make a point, but sometimes when a point is made, you have to bring it up. Now, guys, I am not a fan of this particular individual. I'm not a fan of Jimmy Dore. I'm not a fan of anybody on the radical left because these people are absolutely insane. These people are absolutely crazy. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but you gotta throw this out here to kind of relate to other people. Now, guys, Jimmy, a lot like Jink, a lot like Glenn Greenwald, a lot like the other ones, even the ones that the right likes to prop up, they're from the Blame America crowd, and you normally cannot trust them. However, this is a little bit like deja vu to these people because, quite frankly, they were the ones who originally, it was Jimmy who originally put forward the idea of forced to vote. Now, guys, I'm going to start this, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you guys a little bit more commentary, and then we're going to run the long section of it, and we're going to come back and we're going to kind of break it down a little bit.
All of his campaign promises. And in the weeks after the election, progressive YouTube Politico and comedian Jimmy Dore floated a simple idea to get something in return for those very progressive voters. An idea, in fact, that he gleaned from the DSA's own handbook. That is, you guessed it, force the vote. Progressive squad members could leverage their speakership vote to extract concessions from Nancy Pelosi. Now, unlike Republicans now, the left's asks were to be substantive, not just procedural. One key ask was a vote on Medicare for All, which was intended to keep the fight alive and draw contrast between Democrats' claims that they want to improve health care for Americans and the fact that they repeatedly kill Medicare for All legislation as quickly as they receive money from the pharmaceutical industry. If you want to understand why the vote for Medicare for All was such an important ask, just look at what's happened over the last 2 years. A handful of progressives, squad members alone, had enough votes to hold up Nancy Pelosi's nomination to lead the House. There were plenty of reasons, by the way, to do so. For one, AOC had previously gestured to the fact that she found it incredible that Pelosi had never faced a real speakership challenge in all her years. Moreover, we were at the start of the COVID pandemic and at the tail end of a progressive presidential campaign that delivered unprecedented public support for Medicare for All, along with other progressive policies. Did Bernie's loss mean that the movement representing a majority of Americans was supposed to die? And during a pandemic at that. Since Trump was still president, Democrats were still pretending to care about COVID deaths. And before the vaccines, when even young and healthy people were finding themselves hospitalized or even dying from COVID, there was genuine energy around using the public health crisis as a springboard for improving our public health system, which, by the way, is the most expensive in the world, despite yielding worse results than peer nations.
Pelosi's nightmare back from 2019, as I'm sure you'll remember. She was, of course, elected as House Speaker when Democrats took back control, but progressives, newly elected progressives, led by folks like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, were openly skeptical of Pelosi's leadership, whether she should be Speaker at that time, whether it was time for generational change, and whether they would vote against her. AOC actually voted for her at that time, and Republicans booed her on the House floor for doing so. But all of this sort of shows that while Pelosi was elected Speaker at a time of these sort of left-wing rebels, that so-called squad never ended up being the threat to the Democratic Party that these right-wing rebels are ending up being to McCarthy and the larger Republican Party. And we're seeing that play out in real time yesterday with this Speaker fight, and we're going to see this continue as they try to govern through the 118th Congress.
So it looks like the right wing of the Republican Party is going to do exactly what we all thought and expected that the left wing of the Democratic Party would do, meaning the Justice Democrats, the squad, but they never did do it. And why did we think they would do it? Why did we think that they would do what the right wing is doing right now?
Even planning rallies. As left media figures debated the merits of the plan, people like David Sirota offered constructive additions to the ask, including a suggestion that Pelosi be forced to oust corporate Democrat Richie Neal from the Ways and Means Committee, where he was poised to stop progress on health care reform.
And then David Sirota then came on this show and bullshitted that Kevin McCarthy could become speaker and ran interference for the squad. But anyway.
What should be clear is the specifics of the ask were much less important than the following fact. Nancy Pelosi was obviously an enemy to the left and should not have been voted for without gaining something significant in return. After AOC's first notable day in Congress, during which she protested with climate activists in Pelosi's office, the longtime speaker made quick work of bullying the squad members into submission. An iron fist and a Gucci glove is how Politico described Pelosi once. And over the course of their first 2 years in Congress, the squad members largely submitted to said fist. But here was an opportunity to draw attention to the corruption that paid for that proverbial Gucci glove. The squad members could have demanded important committee assignments. As the current rebel Republicans have done, they could have forced a vote on banning stock trading by Congress members. After all, Pelosi's personal wealth has ballooned during her decades in office, widely out of proportion to her congressional salary. This is a woman who famously defended congressional stock trading despite the clear conflict of interest and insider knowledge Congress members possess. This is a woman who just presided over the quiet death of a bill to end congressional stock trading, one that was arguably designed to fail in the first place. But instead of choosing that moment to fight, to highlight the corruption of the Democratic Party, and to lead a genuine populist movement that stood a chance of waking people up to the limitations of the two-party duopoly, something curious happened. A call seemed to go out to leading figures in the progressive media that they should force the vote. Although I first heard of the idea from Sam Seder, host of the YouTube show Majority Report, who said he supported Jimmy Dore's idea despite having a long-standing feud with Jimmy. He quit.
Now, guys, the whole force the vote thing, what that was that, and by the way, it basically ended in a very, very large rift between Sam Seder, another trash guy, Sam Seder, Jimmy Dore, Jink, all these other people basically got into it, and progressives immediately began to eat their own what they normally do. Now, the reason why they wanted to do force the vote was because they thought they had the opportunity during a pandemic to get a lot of the things that the radical left tries to get. Now, of course, you saw what I posted earlier about what the Republicans simply wanted. Balanced budgets, certain places on certain committees, all that type of stuff there. The stuff that the radical libs were requesting was stuff that, quite frankly, was just completely insane. Stuff that, quite frankly, we can't exactly pay for. Fact of the matter is that they typically tend to think that they could get this type of stuff through, but one of the things that was never explained to the radical left is that most of the agenda that they wanted would have needed to be voted on by 60, not 51 in the United States Senate. That right there is the measure of exactly how much these people actually know. They believe that with 51 votes, they could actually get legislation done. Like, for example, the filibuster. They believe 51 votes would end the filibuster when, in fact, you actually need right around 60. It's stuff like that right there. Legislation, things getting it done. These people obviously never took a civics course, and it showed during the entire course of the whole force of vote thing. Now, guys, this right here has been edited and chalked down a little bit, but I want you guys to pay very, very close attention to some of the things that they were mentioning at the time and why it is hilarious that it was conservatives that actually were able to pull this off. Basically, what happened was, as you guys saw, was that Republicans, for the most part, did their own little version of force the vote. Now, as I said before, I do not endorse Jimmy Dore. I do not endorse any one of these left-wing morons. I do not endorse any of these people at all. I just want to kind of get it across to you guys that this right here is exactly what the hell happened, and obviously the establishment GOP and the establishment Republican media obviously hates this. You see, how do I put this? A lot of times, man, politicians and political pundits don't like the idea when something actually gets done. And one of the reasons why they don't like the reason why something gets done is because it takes away an issue that they can run against. We'll take abortion, for example. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, I was ecstatic because, quite frankly, it would cause a bit of a trend. You were already seeing more of a pro-life trend in the country. But in reality, what you were really seeing was a bit of a balkanization on the issue. Red states were becoming more red. Purple states were becoming a little bit more red on the issue, where blue states were obviously getting much, much more bluer. You went from going to safe, legal, and rare. You went to basically abortion all the way up to the time of birth, which is practically infanticide. That right there is what I mean. A lot of conservative pundits were a little bit upset when Roe v. Wade got overturned because now they have an issue that, quite frankly, they can't run on. This right is one of the reasons why I've kind of left the whole neocon establishment, because the neocon establishment, for the most part, is nothing more than a bunch of electobros, meaning they want to elect people to power, but they don't want to actually properly wield that power. George W. Bush, for example, when he was in office, he didn't wield the power properly. Many people would argue that his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, did not wield the power properly. Many people would argue that Ronald Reagan did not wield the power correctly his second time around. Fact of the matter is this right here. You want people to get in office and actually do something, not just people who are going to do just enough to keep the issue alive to actually run on, because it's obviously something that needs to be taken care of. Really and truly did not know, and of course Jimmy touched on this, is that they were being told a lot of crap from their own pundits like Jink, and of course people, they were actually lying to them. The pundits that they go to were in fact lying to them. GOP establishment types will do the exact same thing from time to time. Fact of the matter is this right here. Most of the crap that they wanted was more than likely not going to get done, but they still lied to them at the same exact time. I know what you're thinking. Well, if they told them they didn't have the votes to pull this off, then what the hell? Then why the hell you bring this up? Is the exact reason why I'm bringing this up. You see, there are people, Jink and them, created a bunch of excuses not to go through with force the vote. They decided to create a bunch of excuses, and as a result, nothing ever got done. They got a very, very small amount. Going back to that guy who I got to an argument with, who, by the way, the girl that you were listening to earlier, who, by the way, was a former press secretary for Bernie Sanders, she was explaining exactly what it was that progressives got, and in reality, it just wasn't shit. So they didn't even attempt force the vote. They acquiesced on a bunch of bull crap and a bunch of small crap, and here they are paying for it. Fiscal conservatives and actual true conservatives can look at this situation and they can say, my God, great job. We got ourselves a good job, guys. You know, you guys got some things that, quite frankly, we care about. We'd like to see a lot of the corruption be gone. We'd like to see this right. And, of course, Kevin McCarthy acquiesced on a lot. Now, guys, let me say this about Kevin McCarthy before I go any further, before I end this video. Kevin McCarthy's career is over with. Okay, I highly doubt that Kevin McCarthy is even going to be in Congress beyond 2024. As I mentioned before, Trump did in fact endorse him going into this. Then eventually he said that, look, this is good for the Republican Party. This right here is good that we had this discussion, we had this debate. It seemed a little bit like maybe it was set up. Matt Gaetz, of course, nominates him for Speaker, and of course he shares a meme. And of course, there's this thing that says he pulled out, which, by the way, you've got a lot of dissent saying is fake. I don't care if it's fake or not. The mere fact that Trump put that whole meme up kind of tells me that obviously he was having a little bit of fun with it himself. Obviously, we needed this debate. We needed this discussion. We needed to get this out in the open. And we needed to see exactly where everybody is, so that way we can go further, not just as a party, but also as a country. And hopefully at the same time also, how do I say this, kind of come together. I personally would like to have a united party, but you need to be able to call out the people like the DeSimps and the crazies and the neocons and the liars and the bullshit artists, so that way you can actually go forward with this. Fact of the matter is that the progressives, they got bullshitted by their own punditry class. They got bullshitted by people, and of course they did not go any further. Where conservatives, on the other hand, they did not allow themselves to be bullshitted. And right now, progressives and progressive voters look pretty freaking silly at this moment in time. And they're probably a little bit less likely to vote come 2024, which actually bodes well for conservatives going forward. All you got to do is just go take a look at the actual turnout numbers, and you guys will see what I mean. Guys, John Claymore here. If you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section. I'm going to get you guys' thoughts. This video right here will be out on Saturday. The Fury review will be out on Gear Issue 33, more than likely on Sunday afternoon or on Monday afternoon. Things got a little bit hectic. I'm working on that video tomorrow. Make sure you guys, once again, hit the like button, subscribe, share, leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.